everyone, this is The Final Bossman, and we are proud to announce today's episode. Welcome to the show. I am Kyle Bossman, and you know what I've been thinking a lot about lately is sequels. Oh, we get our sequels these days. That's big game releases, they're all sequels. The big fall, look forward to these, most anticipated, they're all sequels. An interesting thing about sequels is that sequels are generally a continuation of the game that came before it. The paradox is that sequels are also designed to make more money than the game that came before it. If you're a designer and you make the same game for the same audience and sell the same amount of copies, you have failed. Isn't that crazy? You have not succeeded. We expect much more of the sequels. And so for today's episode, I want to talk about the general theme of expanding your audience. So first thing, if you're making a game and you want to expand your audience, the game's got to look different from the game that came before it. Because remember, everyone had a chance to buy that last game and they chose not to. So make sure this one doesn't look like that one that they already said no to. Like Batman Arkham Knight, a really weird thing in all of its advertising is how much they stress the Batmobile in this game.
The biggest surprise about the game is that this is the first time that you actually get to drive the Batmobile. You know, in all the other games, they get to be the Bat, but in this one, you actually get to drive this vehicle, and that's something that they haven't done before, so I think they'll have a lot of fun with that.
Perhaps the main reason I wanted to play Scarecrow is because I hope he might get to drive the Batmobile.
Batmobile can drive up walls, dude.
So yeah, basically just shameless promotion of this weird part of the game that no one necessarily wants too bad, the Batmobile. Yeah, and those of us who are very excited to play this game coming in, it wasn't for the Batmobile. In fact, it was for all of the things that we've already had in Batman games. However, from the advertising perspective, they gotta stress the Batmobile, because the Batmobile is what makes this one different. Yeah, whatever, I guess that's advertising. I mean, it is that. You just gotta make the game look like something that the people who already said no to don't have. And a really funny thing is, a lot of games will sometimes trash on the game that came before it, especially sports games. If you think of Madden, Madden comes across coming into interviews just saying, yeah, last year the tackles were bad, the running was pretty bad, the football was bad. That's another strategy though, is to say, you know what, all of you people who didn't buy the game last year, you were right to not buy that game. That game stinks, here's the new game, buy this one. It's all strategies for building your audience. Oh, you know what I never noticed is this thing's crooked. There we go. That was stupid before. All those episodes where this was crooked were stupid. Those are stupid episodes. One thing you gotta do is make sure that nobody new will feel left out if they've missed a previous installment. So, a funny thing that Halo is doing now, Halo 5 is most likely the last numbered Halo. Bonnie Ross says, I don't want numbers on Halo anymore. Too confusing. So from here out, colons and subtitles. Sure, I guess why not? It's a thing to get people to feel like, oh, I missed Halo 4, why should I buy 5? It's a tactic. I mean, it works for Dragon Age. Dragon Age Inquisition could have been Dragon Age 3, and I think it sold better, that's the best-selling Dragon Age, I think because it didn't have a 3 in it. I think that helped its case. So generally, you want to make the game just a thing that anybody can enter in, and so make it accessible to your new audience. Make it, don't ever treat an interview or your trailers or your game itself like someone should be extremely familiar with your entire series. Glenny, what? You've been staring at me this whole episode. I do not care what the snake eggs in your cauldron gave you as a premonition. I have a desk that knows the truth about everything. Okay, so I think I'm fine. Glenny, go! Go! Glenny! You're ruining my show right now! Nobody cares about you! Go! I'm sorry about that. Glenny, go. I swear to God, I will throw you down a pit. I will find some people in New England who want you dead, and they will slaughter you. What you do to children is reprehensible. Real Life Witch comes on the show, and I'm supposed to be cool with that. Another thing you can do that I think is pretty cool is, in addition to keeping your old audience, is to attract a very vastly different audience. Again, going back to EA Sports, with FIFA 16 this year, they're putting women on the cover, putting women in the game. You can play a female soccer team or football team if you're in any other country than the US. And with Rory McIlroy, PGA Tour, you have these strange video gamey fantasy courses, one based off Battlefield map anyway. And so, yeah, that's traditionally, this is a very uptight golf game, but here they're going for a little goofier. Hey, maybe attract some more video gamey people. One thing I like a lot is actually what Call of Duty is doing with zombies. Black Ops 3, the zombies mode, is more expansive than ever. Basically, for a while, for many years, Call of Duty has had 3 pillars. You got your campaign, you got your multiplayer, and you got your zombies. And zombies has been growing into a thing of its own for years now. This year, Activision went to Comic-Con with Black Ops 3 and had a panel just for the zombies mode, just for a mode of this one game. And here you see this. Look, we got Jeff Goldblum, we got Ron Perlman being old-timey wisecrackers, supernatural zombie hunters. This is cool. This is targeting a whole different audience than the other commercials that are like, hey, Megan Fox is in this commercial. Do you want to look at her? Yeah, it's not that. It's this whole other different kind of advertising scheme. I like it. I like going for, I mean, they're still making their old audience happy. There will still be that Megan Fox commercial, but at the same time, having a little bit of weird thing for weird people who like zombie stuff. That's all good. I'm sorry, that noise means that it's time for our new segment that we're trying out. This is called That's Notably Poetry. This is a segment in which I've written a poem about video games, and then you are welcome to comment on my poem in the comments section below. I'll just read it. Okay, I don't have a title for this yet. Cut him some slack, the old war is lost. Takes a swig from the bottle, looks to be sick. We can't take stock in the sight of a loose cost. I'm tilting forward on the right analog stick. So, just let me know how you feel about that. You can rate it on the Sutterman scale. Please be kind, though. That took me a while. But honestly, I'd really just like to move on with the actual purpose of this week's episode, which is about building an audience, okay? So what did I want to talk about next? Oh, yeah, just sometimes just increasing a game's awareness, just its exposure, will lead to a bigger audience. And the thing I want to talk about first with this one is actually not a video game, but a movie named Pitch Perfect 2. You might say, what? I don't know what that is. That's fine. Who does? Pitch Perfect 2 is a sequel to Pitch Perfect. Pitch Perfect 2, the reason why this is really interesting is within its first weekend of its theatrical release in the US, made more money than the entirety of the theatrical release of Pitch Perfect 1. That is crazy. That is a perfect example of building an audience. And how that happened is that people watched Pitch Perfect 1 after it came out in theaters. It didn't die at the end of its theatrical run. People watched it on Netflix, going to even like a Redbox, taking out Pitch Perfect. Everybody's talking about Pitch Perfect. Hey, do you want to come over to my house and watch Pitch Perfect? Yes, I'll be right there. That happens. People just share movies. And that's not a bad thing, because when Pitch Perfect 2 came around, it was a huge explosion of people wanting to see it. And so sometimes that can happen with games too. Batman Arkham Knight, in its launch, launched better than any other Batman Arkham game before it, despite having a much smaller install base than those other Batman games had. And why? Just because momentum, just because people care about those Batman games now. It can happen. Sequels can beat the other games. In fact, they all should, hypothetically. It should also be noted, though, that in both of those cases, Pitch Perfect 2 and Batman Arkham Knight, there was a bigger advertising budget, obviously, than they had before. I mean, Pitch Perfect 2 had a Super Bowl commercial, so In fact, that's probably the most surefire way to expand your audience is just spend more money on advertising. That's the episode for this week. If you're on Twitter, you can find me at Kyle Bossman. Before we go though, we have to put a person's name on the wall. Here's what happened. Last week, in the reflection of a window, I very deliberately touched my nose, which is against the rules. And normally, I'm pretty picky about enforcing this rule. However, you can definitely see a thumb and an index finger here. You cannot debate that. And so, to @LookingLikeMagic, you can now join the wall. We have a lot of people here. Let's add you over here. There we go. Looking like magic. Okay, so if this is your first time watching The Final Bossman, I feel like I should explain this. In the second or third episode of The Final Bossman, I made a list of rules, The Final Bossman rules. It's about 100 items long. If I break any of those rules, anyone is welcome to correct me, whether in the comment section or apparently Twitter now, that's a first. And then I'm obligated to then draw that person on the wall, staring at the spacecraft. This was a gift from the President of the United States. So I cherished it before, but now it's just kind of a mess, to be honest. When did this happen? Did that happen like while we were just drawing? Mr. Bush will not be pleased. Anyway, I'll be back here next Wednesday. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching. You have consumed children. That is not okay. Get off my show. Clingy, go, go. Please, you're distracting me. It's distracting when I'm trying to do my job right now. When you're just cooking up a witch's brew, do you want me to come and peep over the edge and stare you in the eyes? No. What, you just snatching up some newt tails off in the bog? You want me to show up, just stare at you? I didn't think so. Criminy. Look, I know like I look like the a-hole, but I have a witch sitting on my desk right now. It ain't right.